Good morning. It's morning for me. I am about to go have my breakfast pizza. Um, for those who are against having lunch meals for breakfast, I don't care. I do lunch for breakfast. I like wake up first thing in the morning and be like, I want a burger and some fries. So, what I want to do today is, as you are kind of walking away and finding your own independence and stuff like that, I'm going to give you some tips and pointers on how to forgive specific people in your life. I just realized, I don't know how the hell I got this far without it. I just realized I've never released a video on how to forgive people, because there is a right way to do it and there's a lazy way to do it. And to be frank, most people do it the lazy way. And the lazy way doesn't get you anywhere. What the lazy way is just a blanket statement, right? Blanket statements don't work. Trust me on that. Blanket statements don't work. So what I typically recommend is that you write it out. So grab yourself a piece of paper. This isn't going to work. This is my little notebook. I write myself love letters. Those are fun. I love them. But you grab yourself a piece of paper. Really, John? You didn't think to have a piece? Here, I'll grab one down here. That'll work. So you just grab a piece of paper, and when you are doing this and you're releasing and you're letting things go, you can do this with your family members, past relationships, exes, past friends, whatever, life's the gambit as far as who you can do this for. And all you're going to be doing is you want to do your best. You could do what they call a relationship graph. That's kind of a useful thing to do. Relationship graph is nice because it kind of gives you a timeline of events. If you don't want to do a relationship graph, especially if you've only known this person for a small amount of time, or maybe you've only interacted with this person a little bit, or their presence in your life is something that's just not, huge and dramatic, you could just write down specific events, right? Maybe it's your boss, and there's about 7 things that your boss drives you crazy with, but it's just those 7 things and nothing else, right? So then you could just list those things. But typically whenever I'm forgiving a person, what you don't want to do is a blanket statement. A blanket statement's not going to get you anywhere. A perfect example of a blanket statement is, my parents love to do this all the time, and it is so unhelpful. It is so unhelpful. And the reason why is because, for the most part, the person themselves don't bother us. It's the specific things that happened that bother us. So when you just forgive them with a blanket statement, I forgive my mom for everything that she ever did. Cool. That sounds fun. But when you sit and you meditate, specific events will pop up in your mind that will get you pissed off. And the more you think about it, the more pissed off you'll get, right? And it's pretty simple. That means that you just haven't let go of it, right? Because forgiveness is the purpose of letting go. It's not to bypass the fact that they did what they did to you. It's not to say that it was good, or that it was, to excuse it away of, oh, well, what they did to me doesn't matter. I forgave them anyways. No, if they hurt you, they hurt you. And if they're not going to take responsibility for that, there's nothing that you can do about that. They're not going to take responsibility for that. But you can still forgive them. And you're forgiving them so that you can let go of your attachment to the pain and your association to that event, right? So, what does that look like? So, first of all, you're going to write down the name of the person on your piece of paper, right? So I'll just do... I'll do my mom, because she gives me fresh content every day. I love my mom, I really do, but the way that she is so hateful towards my sister really just bothers me. And it's been, 30 something years and it hasn't changed. Maybe a little bit, but it still hasn't changed. And so that's something that bothers me. Now, is it my stuff to take on? No. It's between my sister and my mom. It's their relationship. But I am not going to lie when I say it doesn't affect me to see my sister, who's supposed to be loved by my mom, be treated the way that she still gets treated, right? So that's an example. So it doesn't have to happen to you. It can just be you witnessing something that's completely wrong that you have an issue of letting go of. Okay. So I'm going to put at the top, I'm just going to put mom. What up, mom? It's basically how I greet her every time anyway. I'm like, what's up, mom? And she's like, John, please. And I'm just like, no. I love screwing with my mom as much as I can. She is incredibly gullible, and I love that. So, okay, and depending on how you want to do it, you got mom up here at the top. I guess I could go downstairs where I have my whiteboard. I have my whiteboard. I have a fancy whiteboard. You press a little button and it goes. Yeah, it's super fucking cool. I know. No, you can't have it. It's mine. So, two different ways to do it. You can just start listing stuff down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that she's done that are popping up in your mind that you don't like. Or if you wanted to take a more deep approach, you can draw a line across the sheet of the paper, just like so. On the left side of the line, you're going to put the events, the first events that you can ever... I will say that this is kind of a more complete way to deal with a person, right? Now, when you're dealing with a person, we're going to stay balanced in this, and so we're not going to go like making them out to be the complete demon, right? So above the graph, we'll put positive experiences, right? So I'm just going to put a big plus sign at the top of the paper. Below the graph, and we're going to put negative experiences. Put a big minus at the bottom so you can see there's my positive, there's my negative. And so what you want to do simply is, this is, the right side of the graph is now, and the left side of the graph is your earliest memory. So, so there's mom up at the top, positive experiences, negative experiences. On the side to the left is your earliest memories, and then on the opposite side is now, right? So it doesn't need to be anything cray-cray. My camera loves to freak out. It doesn't need to be anything cray-cray. Jesus Christ. But you get the picture of it, right? So now what we're going to do is if you have, and this is for, let me see if I can't just kind of fix this thing a touch. Is it going to fix? No, that's fine. So every event that you can think of, and you do want to sit with this, right? Every event that you think of, you want to put a line down on the chart. And so because this is a recent chart for me, I'm not going to do my whole damn life with my mom. If you have issues with a person and it's a big deal, then you can do the whole thing, right? But ultimately, it's okay to just do a small section of time. So a couple of things. Me personally, I would probably just write a list because I don't have a lot of things that my mom has done recently that have bothered me. But I'll do this kind of for the sake of explaining. So, let's see. So think, right? Take time, close your eyes, and just really focus on your relationship with that person. Okay? So, if you want to take a couple of deep breaths, it's fine to take a couple of deep breaths. But I typically just like to sit. And the focal point is what bothers me about this person, right? Or how has this person hurt me, right? So just focusing on those two things. What has bothered me about this person, or in what ways has this person hurt me, right? And you just focus on that. And so, when I was, whenever I was 10 years old, my mom forced me to eat my pet. Okay, so I'll put that here. And I'll put that as a big line because at the time that was extremely traumatic for me. And then I'm just going to put eat my pet. It's kind of a fucked up thing to do to your kid, but that's what happened to me. So, long line for my mom forcing me to eat my pet. And if I can, and that's just an example, if I can think of something smaller, my pet was a goat, by the way. So I don't want you to think like my mom went out there and butchered Fido. My mom's Hispanic, so it's not, it's not outside of the culture to kill animals and eat them. But they fucking gave me this goat, and I raised this goat and fell in love with this goat. And when I came home, the goat's head was detached from its body, and its body was in a bunch of pieces spread throughout the yard, and there was blood everywhere. And then they said, eat. Yeah, let's not think about that. Yeah. So another thing I can think of, let's see. Let me pull something else up. Yeah. So I'm going to think, here's another one. This one didn't hurt me that much. Made me mad, very angry, but it didn't hurt me that much. So it's a smaller line. It's not a big line. It's a smaller line. So, and these are not my ideas, by the way. I did not create this. I just want to make sure. This is just kind of, knowledge that you get from reading books. I mean, there's books about it and stuff like that. I'm not going to recommend the book to you because the book is so damn long and it's incredibly complicated. So I'm giving you a crash course summary on this book real quick. So, it's going to be the time when my brothers came in and ransacked my room and broke all of my belongings. And my mom's reaction to me standing up for myself was to try to pray the devil away from the situation. So I'm going to put brothers destroyed my stuff. And I'm going to put under it no support. Because in that situation, she wasn't standing up for me. She wasn't telling my brothers. And this is just kind of a thing for her in general, is that she has never stood up for me in any situation. She's only ever prayed the devil away from the situation, which I don't know if you guys know or not, doesn't do a goddamn thing in any situation, but make things stupid and really fucking stupid. Like imagine you walk up to two people fighting in a bar because the guy, one of the guys, this actually happened to me in a bar in Alaska. The guy just took my beer and just started drinking it like it was his own. And I guess he wanted to fight. And, at that point in my life, I was trying my best to be spiritual. And I'm not going to lie, if I was not about to fucking go down with this man. But at the end of the day, I didn't care for it. And he got extremely pissed off that I wasn't fighting him because apparently he was wanting a fight. He wanted a fight. And that once I realized that he wanted a fight, I was like, oh, I'm not going to give you a fight you want, dog. I ain't doing that to you. I'm not about to award your behavior, right? Inevitably, and somebody else ended up getting in a fight with him. And I just kind of went back to eating my meal while they were fighting right underneath me. It was kind of funny. But imagine just in that situation, just being like, Lord Jesus, there are demons in our presence. Okay. So, anyways, you go through that and you write down all the negative stuff across the line. You can do it that way. Personally, for me, if you because these are things like from the way past. If you've never done a person before, that wouldn't be bad to do from your earliest memories with that person to the present moment and just kind of map it all out. Depending on the relationship, that could take forever. So make sure you have plenty of time when you do it, because ultimately you have to do it. Because once again, blanket statements do not work, right? Kind of like the example I had brought up earlier but never finished. My dad, I remember asking my dad, while for some reason I was being a relationship therapist for my parents. It is not my job as a child to be a therapist for my parents, even though I give what I think to be is amazing relationship advice. Ultimately, I'm your son. Go find a therapist. But my dad, I told my dad, I was like, look, man, you are harboring so much resentment for the stuff that mom has done to you that's affecting your ability to be loving and kind and caring and supportive of my mom, right? And he was like, I don't hold anything against your mom. I forgive your mom for everything that she's ever done for me. And I'm like, okay. And so I start bringing up specific things, and you could just see the blood boiling in his body as he's reliving those moments, right? Has he forgiven? If every time I bring it up, he starts getting really pissed off and really upset, right? No, because he prefers the blanket statement, because the blanket statement makes him feel like he's done. The blanket statement makes it feel like I've healed this relationship. There's nothing that me and this person have against each other. We're good to go. Everything's fine. But then you start bringing up these little things. Okay, so whenever we were at the restaurant in Germany and she got really pissed off at you because you made eye contact with the waitress while you were talking to her, how did that make you feel? And you just see the anger just kind of boiling up in his body, right? Okay, what about whenever you told her that you guys were already, $150,000 in debt, and to not use any more money on the credit cards and to stop spending on the credit cards, and she immediately went out and spent $5,000 on jewelry and presents for other people and all the kind of stuff. How did that make you feel? Oh, blood starts boiling again and all this kind of stuff, right? So this is why blanket statements don't work, is because blanket statements are not specific. You have to think about it kind of like scars. Can you see my scars? I have a shit ton of scars. This is a big prominent one that should show up on camera. Anyways, I don't know if y'all saw that. Actually, you could just see this one. These kind of scars here. It was a motorcycle accident. They have a very specific shape and a very specific form, right? And so when you say, oh, I forgive a person for everything, you're not actually forgiving them for anything. You are doing that to make yourself feel better in the moment, but you're not actually doing any credible work. Imagine a person comes out to your house and you ask them to build you a deck for your porch or something like that, for your back, for the back, whatever. Build me a deck. And they show up and they have the wood and they have the nails and they have everything that they need, and they say, your deck is built. No, it's not. There's no deck there. Right? You just saying that there's a deck there didn't mean that this specific 2x4 got cut to the right length, got put in the right position, and got fastened with the correct fastener, right? You just saying it's finished does not, I mean, it may make you feel better, but it's not actually going to do anything, right? So think of specific things. The more specific, and if a person really, really hurt you, typically you're going to have a perfect scar in the shape of that specific event, right? So, I always tell people this, especially whenever they say, whenever I was kind of bringing up stuff to have conversations with people, I would tell them, look, there's something that you did to me 12 years ago that I've been carrying around this entire time, and I can't let go of it, and I've been pissed off about it the entire time, and every time I think about it, it really makes me hate your guts, and I want to talk about it. And I'll bring up the event, and they won't even remember it. They won't even remember that happened, right? And so, unfortunately, depending on the person, they may gaslight you and say, no, I never did that, right? It's okay. Just know that that's an option. It's a potential that could happen if somebody gaslights you on your events. Never take that on, because your scar is in the exact shape of every single one of those moments in that event, right? So I have a crystal clear scar of coming home and seeing my pet butchered throughout the yard, blood smeared all over a piece of plyboard, and a grill being prepared, my uncle covered in blood with a machete in his hand. That is a crystal clear event to me. I have a crystal clear event in my mind where I was crying at the table. I was begging for just, the moment to be over, really. But I was just crying and bawling my eyes out at the dinner table. And I was really hungry because I hadn't eaten all day. And I was wanting food, and my mom refused to give me anything except my pet. And I remember that moment. It was a paper plate, and it was just a little bit of goat meat with some tortillas, and it was sitting on a paper plate, and I didn't want to eat it, and I was starving, and I wanted to eat something, and she would not give me anything else. And so then I sat and I ate my pet, and I felt like absolute shit. I hated the taste of it. I hated the fact that I was doing it, but I was just so goddamn hungry and pissed off. And at the time, eating was my coping mechanism. And so I had so much pain going on that I didn't know what to do. And then you put my pet in front of me to eat. You kind of fuck with my coping mechanism, like, dog, let me have my coping mechanism now, But so that's an example. Okay. So once you have the list of all the negatives, now you're going to do all the positives, because you want to balance this out, right? Because your experiences with this person, they're not all negative, right? Maybe they are, but for the most part, they're not all negative, right? I can think about my mom. One of the more beautiful moments that I shared with my mom was recently whenever we were out in the yard and I was playing hockey with my mom. She'd never played hockey before, and I was absolutely schooling her, but she was just giggling and laughing like a little child, and it was just like we were little kids playing. And I found that to be a very beautiful moment, right? So you can put that at the top, hockey moment, right? So it's going to look something like that. And because these were earlier in life, this was later in life, you can kind of gauge. Now, do you have to do it this way? No, you don't have to do it this way. Oh, this dang fly. You don't have to do it this way. Like I said, you can also just write down the specific events that hurt you the most, right? Okay. Ideally, put it on a piece of paper that you can burn. I like to be ritualistic with things. I think it's fun. I do enjoy ritual. Do you need to? No. But I do. So I enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's fun. Does it do anything? No. But it's fun. That's what it comes down to. So you're going to take this and you're going to sit with it, and you're going to go with every single event, okay? Now, you're going to shut your eyes. You're going to take a couple of deep breaths. Get yourself in a really relaxed state, kind of feeling, just your existence. After this, I'm probably going to record a video on actually how to meditate, especially if you're brand new to meditating. Meditating, trust me, on this path is going to be one of the more important things, because as you go through this path, emotions and feelings are going to come up, and there's going to be things, blockages. There's going to be these things that you hit that you do not want to move past, right? I can think of a couple of situations that I'm not going to say here on camera because they are incredibly vile, and I may get struck by YouTube for mentioning them. So that's mainly the reason why I don't have an issue with sharing those moments. It's I don't want to get struck by YouTube for sharing those moments. And so for the longest time, I refused to move past those moments. But ultimately, the person who I was holding this thing against didn't give a shit. They were living their life. They were perfectly happy. My absence of their life and me holding shit against them in my life didn't bother them one bit. They were still able to wear a smile at their family picnic, so that's the thing you have to keep in mind, is that when you're holding stuff against people, this is only hurting yourself. Very rarely, in a manipulative way, you can get some relationships where, as a form of punishment, people will withdraw love, people will withdraw themselves, and they'll do this as a form of punishing a person for something. That's just manipulation, right? That's not healthy. That's pretty toxic. And if you want to have a healthy relationship, you have to forgive the person who did that to you for the first time. Most likely it was one of your parents. Most likely you were a child and you were crying and your parents basically withdrew themselves because you needed them. And they were just like, you are being too much. Go with your parent. Go with your grandparents. Go over here. You are too much to handle. I am not going to handle you. You're done, get out kind of thing. And those people grow up especially if they've never dealt with those specific wounds, they grow up to basically repeat those specific things in their life, right? So, where are we at? Oh, so whenever you're doing this, close your eyes and have the list in front of you. Now, sit up straight, whatever, however you like. Think about that specific moment. So for me, I'm going to be thinking about the moment that my mom forced me to eat my pet. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to think about that moment. And I'm going to allow myself to feel all the feelings that I felt in that moment. The anger, the rage, the how the fuck can you guys do this to me? You guys are evil. All the feelings, right? Don't push them away, but don't attach to them either, right? Because when you attach to it, you force your body to relive that moment. You're not doing anything for yourself, right? By sitting there and letting your body completely feel everything again, if there's no moving past it, then you're just reliving a dark moment in your life. And there's no benefit to reliving a dark moment in your life if there's no progression, right? So you're shutting your eyes. You're the observer of your life, okay? So you are not you anymore. You are a friend of you, okay? So you're back there, and you are just looking at what John has experienced, right? I am back there, and I am with my friend John, and my friend John is working through some of his stuff. And so I am going to stand back there as John works through his stuff. And I'm going to just watch and observe, right? That's kind of how you want to take it, okay? Because if you bring up these things, it is very easy to go into a panic attack. I used to get panic attacks all the time. And so I know that if you embody these feelings, you can end up having a panic attack. So don't have a panic attack. And if you do have a panic attack and it is becoming a medical emergency, call 911, all that kind of stuff. But just don't attach to those feelings, okay? The purpose of this is not to relive those dark moments in your life. right? The purpose of this is to bring up those moments, see the feelings and all the hurt that was involved, and ultimately look at that person and say, what you did was wrong. You shouldn't have done that to me. You can be very firm about that. But I'm forgiving you for the purpose of setting myself free from this experience. And forgive them and let it go. And you can, and when you let it go, you can exhale, you can whatever, you can do a gesture, you can do what, have fun with it. This is you doing your healing, right? So I'm just going to go through mine. I'll keep my eyes open. That way you can kind of just watch me do mine, and then you can do yours. Okay? So I'd sit down. I'd think of all of the feelings. Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes closed. I said I was going to keep my eyes open, but I can't. Sorry. So I'm going to think of all the moments, all the feelings. I'm going to think of all the pain that happened. I'm going to think about my screaming, my begging for them to stop. That is my rumbly little tummy begging for pizza. And then I'm going to think about the moment that I turned to Mom and I said, you let them do this. And she said, it's just an animal. Get over it. And then I'm going to think about me sitting at the table later that evening, starving, wanting something to eat. And all they would give me were those fucking tacos. I rub my palm when I'm doing anything. This just makes me feel better. You don't have to do that. I just do it. And now that I've sat with those feelings, I've sat with those emotions, I bring everything up. I'm going to look at my mom, and I'm going to look at the damage that she did to me. And I'm going to look at how she never took responsibility for her actions. I'm going to look at her in her face. I'm going to tell her, Mom, what you did was completely wrong and super fucked up. But I forgive you. And I don't forgive you because I'm giving you a scot-free pass and discounting how I felt about it. No. I'm forgiving you so that I can let go of the event. So that way I can move on with my life and I can be free from this pain. And that's it. And then you move on to the next one, right? Okay. My brothers destroyed all my stuff in my room, and they didn't support me in it. Okay. So once again, I put myself in that position. I came home. All of my antiques, all of my collectibles, all of the things that I had in my room were thrown on the floor. A lot of the things that I had held on to for a long time, a lot of very delicate things were smashed on the floor. All so that my brothers could put up a fucking Wi-Fi extender. And I remember being so filled with anger and rage in that moment. Notice I'm not embodying the anger and rage. I'm just a friend of John looking at what John has experienced, right? I remember being so pissed off and so angry that I immediately went outside, and there were my brothers. And I remember yelling at them, calling them the names that they should have been called. I'm not taking back for calling them what I called them in that moment. I'm not sorry for that, because they deserved it. And I walked up to them, and I stood up for myself. I'm not apologizing for standing up for myself. Right? And in that moment, my mom comes up, and while me and my brothers are hashing it out, my mom decides that the problem is not my brothers. The problem is not the fact that they had just came into my personal space and destroyed my things. The problem was that the devil was present, and that she immediately needed to pray to make sure that the devil had left. And there she is, randomly in the background, just praying for the devil to leave. But in that moment, I sensed that she was not praying the devil out of them. She was focused on me, because I was the one who was attacking after I had been attacked. I was the one who was out in the yard yelling at my brothers. So in that moment, I know that when she was praying out the devil, that she was trying to pray out the devil in me. And in that moment, I remember feeling so unsupported by my mom, and feeling like I had nobody to rely on, and that it was just me in this world once again. And in that moment, I remember thinking about my mom. You are a useless piece of trash. And that's the thought that came in my mind whenever my mom came out there and saw me arguing and fighting and standing up for myself. And her response was to attack me with prayer. Notice that I'm not embodying any of these emotions. I'm not embodying any of the rage. I'm not embodying any of the anger. I'm not trying to suppress them either. I'm allowing them to come up, but I'm just not attaching to them. The emotions, they're coming up in my body right now. I feel my body kind of getting a little tingly, because it's bringing up a lot of, fight or flight kind of chemicals in my body as I put myself back into the experience as the observer in the background. And so first I'm going to start off with asking forgiveness from my mom. So first I'm going to look at her and I'm going to say, in that moment, I'm sorry that I called you or thought that you were a useless piece of trash. I'm sorry. In that moment, I also felt the same way, but I'm sorry that I did that to you. With that being said, your inability to back me up as a child is a serious thing that you need to work on yourself. Now, regardless, in that whole situation, in that whole moment of anger, and in that whole moment of feeling unsupported, I forgive you. And I don't forgive you to take away your responsibility from the event. I forgive you so that I can set myself free from the attachment to that event. And I release myself from being attached to that event in any emotional capacity. And that's it. And then you can hit some of the positive things, right? So you go back in. You bring up that moment. That was a positive experience. And I can say to my Mom, in that moment where you and I were playing hockey in the front yard, and I was just absolutely just dominating you, and you were just having fun, just trying to keep up, and you were laughing and having fun. I truly saw the child in you in that moment that just wanted to play, that just wanted to be loved, and that wanted to be seen. I saw the child before all the pain, before all the abuse. And I saw that part inside of you, and I loved it completely. And I thought that that was so beautiful. And for that moment, thank you. I love you. And then you move on to the next thing, right? So the purpose of this is not to build up so much negative stuff, and the only light that you can think of the specific person is negativity, right? You want to think, you want to see the negative, you want to see the positive, and you want to balance the relationship. That's the whole idea, is that you don't want to have this person built up to be, a god, because they're not. And at the same time, you don't want to make them out to be the devil, because they're not, right? The devil's got horns. That person doesn't have horns. Just kidding. But that's a really good thing to do. You're going to do this a billion times. For every person in your family. The hard ones ideally first, right? But then what you'll do, if you want to, you can crumble this thing up, throw it away, and be done with it, right? I like the ritualistic side of things. So I like to go outside and make a little mound and maybe say a prayer, maybe speak to them again one more time, and then I will light it on fire. And as it burns, I once again, will just kind of repeat, and I release these things to set myself free from the attachments to these events in my life, right? It's really good. And believe it or not, doing that will help you release more than Christianity ever will. Not to take like a pot shot at Christianity at the very end of this, but no, whenever I look at my life and I look at the love and the joy, it comes from, that I now can embody, it comes from letting go, right? And you will have people, and if you feel like you want to have a conversation with a person, it's okay to have a conversation with a person. Do not attack them. Just let them know the feelings that you have been feeling, and be 100% prepared that they will not reciprocate, that they will still hold you responsible, and that they may even do more damage in that moment. So be very careful with who you decide you are going to approach and talk to, because for the most part, letting go of stuff happens on your side, right? This is your side of the street, right? You have yourself, your little house, your sidewalk, your curb, your side of the street. Then you have the person that you're dealing with, their house, their sidewalk, their side of the street. This is you cleaning up your side of the street. Now, you can walk across the street and say, hey, neighbor, I've cleaned up my side of the street, and I just wanted to let you know that I cleaned up my side of the street. Now, that is an open invitation for them to clean up their side of the street. They probably won't. Keep that in mind. For the people that I have approached, I've only had about 3 of them actually be willing to clean up their side of the street with me so that we could have a beautiful connection again, right? Me with my sister. Whenever we were married, she had told my ex-wife, who I so desperately loved because she was the only person in my life that stood up for me and that backed me over my family, because my family was extremely manipulative. But she was the only person who backed me over my family. And my sister took it upon herself to inform my new wife that she would never be a part of the family. And that no matter how long she was married to me, my sister would never see her as part of the family. Now, at the time, I did what I do. I'm a Cancer. So when somebody attacks me, I fire back and I cut the throat. So I let my sister have it. And my sister decided that the healthiest thing would be that her and I would never talk again. And we hardly ever did. If we did talk, it was very to the point. We never discussed it. We never had a relationship. That was basically the defining end of the relationship. And this was the missionary sister. And so, you know, eventually, whenever I did get a divorce, you know, there were certain people in my family that when I got a divorce, they were excited and happy that I got a divorce because they thought it was good for me. And I remember thinking in that moment that that was the only person that ever stood up to me against all of you dark ass people. So the only reason why y'all are happy is because she pointed out the crap in you guys that y'all refused to look at, which is why I loved her. That she, you know, my brother would bring up stuff and my ex-wife would be like, weren't you the guy? and I was just like, oh man. Not saying that that's healthy, right? Obviously, it's my job to fix my relationships with my family. But at the time, it felt reassuring and comforting for me. So I told my sister, I said, look, you know, clearly my ex-wife is in the past now. And the only reason why I'm coming up to talk to you about this is because I've cleaned up my side of the street and I've forgiven everything that you've done to us during our marriage. All the things that you said, all the hurtful things that you said, I've already forgiven you for all those things. Which, be careful when you say that because that can be an attack, right? I am basically attacking this girl and telling her, you never said sorry for this crap, but I still forgive you, right? So, you know, that is an emotional attack in that moment. So, you know, maybe come up with a different way of saying it, but this is just how I handled it with my sister. And I told her, I was like, look, you know, I cleaned up my side of the street, which is great. I would like to be able to explain to you the deeper parts of me that created the situation where we inevitably ended up having the issue between you and me that we did. And so I reminded her, growing up, she was an absolute ass to me, and that I never felt, and that by the time I was about 12 years old, I hated her and wanted to never see her again in my life. And I reminded her of all the things that she had done that I didn't appreciate, but I had already moved on from. Once again, this is a lot of, you know, this is why I say you can't walk up to everybody and just have this conversation, because be completely prepared for them to not take responsibility for anything that they did. And for the most part, you don't even need to have this conversation because what I found on the other side was not significantly greater, right? And I told her, I was like, look, you know, I just want to let you know that on my side of things, I'm not holding that against you. So, you know, I've moved on from that. I know that that was kind of a stain in our relationship, and I just wanted to let you know that I've put that in the past. You know, I've moved on from that. My sister's response was, I'm so happy that you finally saw my side and why I was right. And it's nice to be able to interact with you and all that kind of stuff. Now, with that being said, this is exactly what I mean. You know, I approached her with the hope of healing the connection, which I slowly did over time, by just kind of continuing to show up and maintain my boundaries and make sure that she knew who I was, because human beings, we change about every 5 years. And so, you know, kind of showing up to her and all that jazz. She didn't take responsibility for any of the things that she said because, from her Christian perspective of things, she was perfectly reasonable in saying the things that she said. I apologized for the things that I had said to her that I had gone overboard about. And we basically called it quits there, right? It felt good for me because at least I was able to get some of her side of the street cleaned up, right? Ultimately, it's not my job, but I wanted that connection with my sister. Keep in mind, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a connection with that person, right? There are some people that will refuse to take accountability for the things that they've done. And so walking up to them and saying that you want to look past that does not mean that they want to look past that. You have to remember this healing journey that you're on is one-sided. It's on you, right? You are cleaning up your side of the street. And you have many sides of the streets with many different people. And not everyone is going to want to clean up their side of the street. You will have some where you walk up to them and you just say, hey, I wanted to have a, always kind of give them an idea of what's coming, right? Don't just throw stuff at people. Make sure that you always say, hey, I just wanted to bring up something that's a little bit touchy and it's about our past, right? That's a great way to let them know what's coming next, right? Oh, you call me because you have something that you want to talk about that's a little touchy, that's about our past. Okay, so now they're already ready. They're already kind of expecting something to kind of come on, right? It's not like, oh, happy birthday. Oh, and by the way, don't do that. Give their mind, give their brain ample time to kind of, warm up to the idea. And as you talk to them, don't attack them. Don't start calling them names. Don't, you can bring up how that moment made you feel, and you can bring up kind of some of the maybe insecurities or some of the things that you were dealing with that created that moment, and just letting them know that you have let go of that moment. Don't expect them to do the same. And so if you don't, and this is why I say that this is optional, right? Walking up to the person and having a direct conversation with them, that's optional. Because not everybody is going to say, okay, you know what? I too have done my own work. I've also looked at that moment within myself, and I have also let go of the moment. And so this can be a water under the bridge moment for us, and we can move on and still have a beautiful connection from here. And we can build something together, a new relationship, whatever. Not everybody's going to want to do that. I've tried it with my dad, did not work with my dad. Tried it with my mom, did not work with my mom. It did eventually work with my sister, and it did work with my brother, although with my brother, I would not recommend the way that I did it. I went a little bit too hard, too fast. But we inevitably did get to the point to where everything was water under the bridge, and him and I were celebrating a new relationship under a new light. Okay. Now, not to throw Christianity under the bus, but this is why just asking Jesus for forgiveness does not do it, right? Asking, and it was the same thing for me whenever I was kind of going through and I was thinking about the people that I had been mean to and the people that I had done things to. I called them up. I called them up. I didn't have anybody's phone numbers, but Facebook, I found their Facebooks and I sent them a message. And, whether we were friends on Facebook or not, I had no idea. But for the people that I could find, I said, hey, I was a real dipshit to you growing up. And it's sat with me, and I'm trying to become a better person. And this specific moment keeps coming up in my mind. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry that I did that to you. I was very hurt as a person. I was very hurt as a child. And unfortunately, because I had no way of dealing with that, I had the emotional intelligence of a tractor at that point in my life. I did it in the wrong way. And instead of handling it in a correct way, I ended up being mean to you about it. So I'm sorry. And yeah, send those messages off. that doesn't mean that you're going to get a reply that says, I forgive you. Do not put yourself under the guillotine of waiting for somebody to forgive you. They may forgive you, they may not forgive you. The purpose of this is to release things and be done with them. If you sit here and wait for somebody to forgive you, you put yourself right back in the situation where you are attached. There's an attachment to that event, right? You are cleaning your side of the street and you are taking your trash, you're putting it in the trash can, and you're calling for the trash guy to come pick it up, right? Does not mean that while he's picking up your trash, he's going to pick up his trash, because his trash may not be ready, right? But you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're waiting on a person to forgive you. Yeah. And I've had plenty of situations before in my life where I will call up a person or leave them a message or whatever and just let them know, hey, I'm sorry that these things happened. You always want to be complete. You always want to leave things in a complete way. Yeah. You never want to, because here's the reality of life. They can die in the next hour. That's just the reality of life. No matter what situation you're in, they could be dead tomorrow. And you would have to live with knowing that you held something back and that you're not complete, right? Maybe you, I can't think of anything. Maybe you walked away from a person and you feel bad about something in that, and you want to bring something back up, and they end up dying the next day, or they end up dying that night, or they end up moving away, or they end up going to a place where you can no longer kind of have that completed storyline that you wanted, right? It's like with my uncle. My uncle passed away, and the last time I'd spoken with him, I shrugged him off. I was about 16. Was I 16? Yeah. I was about, no, 17. Was I? I think I was 16. Yeah, I was 16. Because I remember I was illegally driving on a permit that night, speeding down the highway at 120. So I was 16 at the time, and he was so excited to see me. He was so happy, and he just wanted to show me so much of his stuff. He wanted to kind of show me, hey, this is where I'm at. Look at this stuff. Look at what I've got. Because like I said, he basically died on vacation. Look at this, look at that. You want to come over here, And at the time, I just wanted to go play with my cousin because we were playing outside. And I told him, I was like, Theo, look, I don't have time for this right now. It's great to see you, man, but, show me later. Just show me later. I don't have the time for it right now. I'll see you later, man. And he's just like, no, John, come back. I want to show you something. I'm like, Theo, I don't have time for this right now. And then he died the next day or something like that. And so my last conversation with my uncle was an incomplete, I'll see you later, we'll chat later, and later never came, right? So in general, you want to make sure that whenever you're doing these things, you want to leave stuff in a completed format, right? You don't want to leave it on I hope you forgive me. No. Because now you've now opened it back up, waiting for them to forgive you, right? You don't hope that they forgive you. You're apologizing. You're offering that as a gift to them, and that's it, right? Or you're forgiving them for what they did to you, and you're offering that as a gift to them, right? You're letting it go. Now, how can you still hold a person accountable after you've forgiven them? It's simple. You're not holding them accountable in the way that you're still holding pain onto that situation, right? So, an instance for my mom. I can show up for my mom. I can still love my mom completely, and I can have no attachment to that event and still know that that was wrong what she did to me, right? She bears the responsibility of what she did to me, right? So that's kind of the idea that you can think of. is that it is water under the bridge. It does not impede my relationship with my mom. You know, I don't hang out with my mom every single time and bring up that specific event, right? That would be a sign that I've still have an attachment to that event. But when I look back at that event, I don't look back at that event with an attachment to that event. I look back at that event as an observer, as an outside observer, and I look back at that event and say, yeah, my mom did me dirty in that situation. And that's it. There's no attachment there. There's no, you know, if she didn't apologize for it, she didn't apologize for it. But I'm not going to hold on to that event, right? So, okay. I know it was kind of a longer video. I was kind of hoping this to be kind of short. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But I hope that helps you guys kind of free some stuff up, you know. Yeah, I hope that helps you guys out. So if you let me know if you want to anything else down in the comment section. You can put it down if it's helped you. If there's a question that you have, also let me put up my thing here, so that way if you want to reach out to me, come on, clicker doodle, click. My clicker doodle is not clicking. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I just don't have that. So anyways, you can click on basically any one of my, actually down in the description, I always have my email down in the description, so you can get in contact with me. If you have something specific, something like that, you want to interact with me, you want to contact me, please feel free to do so. I'm always open and loving towards everybody in my life. I love everybody. I love you. If you haven't heard that in a while, I'm sorry that you haven't heard that. But I do indeed love you. And I think everything else in the universe secretly loves you too. It's just just doesn't do a good job of showing it. So, okay, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.